This is Kayia, and this is Kayia's roadmap to success. I'm having an off day. I'm going to try to summarize what we went over here today. I wanted to work on some counter conditioning for her with the vacuum cleaner. We tried it a couple times. It's just kind of tight quarters, and she's still reactive to it and has some other issues. So we're that's passive training. So I'm going to talk about kind of the other stuff that we covered in this session because we need to really flip the leader-follower dynamic. First thing I talked about was exercise, and remind me about the clicker if I forget. So the first thing we talked about is exercise, because basically she gets an hour's walk a day, which is better than like 95% of my clients, but the walk comes later in the day. And walking is not the most efficient form of exercise. Yes, and so right there she was just chewing on her guardian's shoe. This would be a great opportunity when she does that, instead of saying she's being naughty, to immediately go to the stairs and throw this treat up and down the stairs like I showed you. And so the first time we do it, remember we're going to do it with an empty stomach so we can know what her maximum number is. So I keep doing it until she won't come up anymore. And I count each trip up, down, or down, up as 1. Sit. Sit. Remember, treat always goes in the mouth first, they hear the command word after. So anytime she starts nibbling on your feet or barking at you or doing stuff, ask yourself, how long has it been since she has had exercise? If it's longer than an hour, she probably needs some more exercise. So we can use the stairs, we can play fetch. She also likes to play fetch. You might want to also Google scent games like sniffing, and that's a great way to do it. I had her chasing a laser. She was on the high end of what I would say is acceptable for chasing a laser. Some dogs, if they get really frantic and manic about it, those dogs, it's not healthy for them to do the laser. So if that's the case, we look for other things. The walk is great too, but a walk is not as good as a run. So sprinting after that ball is going to be a much more efficient workout than going for a walk. And remember, exercising her before you go for a walk, or before you have guests come over, or before you're going to be on a walk that other dogs are going to be around, is a great way to set her up for success. So the first time you do these, play fetch or the up and down on the stairs, do it with an empty stomach. Remember, she should have about 90 minutes after eating before she has any strenuous exercise. Walking is different, but stuff where it moves around because the stomach can actually twist. So, all right, so exercise is number one. Second thing we talked about was rules. She really doesn't have any rules. And so if a dog doesn't have any rules, it sees you as a peer, and if it sees you as a peer, then listening to is now optional. So I like rules because rules are a great way for us to demonstrate that we are the leader, because the leaders are the ones who enforce the rules. So dogs go through life probing, or kids go through life probing to see what they can get. Dogs go through life probing, waiting for you to say that's the limit. They're going to circle back around a little bit later on and test, did you disagree at the same point? And then again later on. And they're testing you, they're testing your consistency. A lot of people think it's being defined. It's not. They're just testing to make sure that you're being consistent. So some of these rules should be in place for a minimum of 90 days or as long as the problem is still going on. So the first rule I usually suggest is not allowing the dog on the furniture, because the higher they sit, the more rank or social status they have. Now, she's not kenneled during the day, which is awesome, but that means that she's going to have access to furniture during the day. So what I would get is those X mats, letter X, M-A-T-S. They're about 11 to 13 bucks. Probably need about 3 for that couch, 1 for here, maybe 1 for the ottoman, and maybe downstairs. Or you can block off downstairs so she can't get down there when you're there. We don't want her to practice breaking the rule while we're gone. Otherwise, it makes it a lot more difficult to actually establish a good behavior pattern. So not being allowed on the furniture for at least 90 days. And then after that, if we decide to let her up, it's with an invitation from a human, and it's a one-time pass. She doesn't really have good boundaries with personal space, and she just jumps on the couch and is getting in people's faces. She does not do it aggressively, but it's still inappropriate. There's nothing wrong with I invite her up, but right now she's doing the inviting. And in the wrong situation, that can turn into a bad situation. So basically, the furniture will kind of eliminate that, or eliminating her from being on the furniture will stop that. Now, I'd recommend that the Guardians get a dog bed and put it right here. I like getting it on Groupon, but the Guardian, I think you mentioned some other places. Just make sure, I like to get it like a cushion, not with a lot of crevices in it. I like the no pattern and a color of light gray, white, or light cream, so that you can leave a treat on it and the dog can see it. A pattern, sometimes it's hard for the dog to actually see. I might be falling on the pattern. It actually fell one of these and she couldn't see it. So the idea is when I have about 10 treats, I throw one onto the dog bed. She sees me throw it. She runs over it, and when she puts 1 or more paws on the dog bed, when she licks it up, I would say beach, Jamaica, lizard, whatever the word is you want to use. So that means to go onto the dog bed. So I usually do this about 10 treats. I wait for her to vacate completely, then I throw another one. So this is the first way to lure her or motivate her to go on the dog bed. The second way I do it is when she's not in the room, I leave a treat on the dog bed when she's not paying attention, and don't point it out. And when she comes in, she finds it, she licks it up, try to say the command word again. Third way is I lure the dog onto it by showing her I have a treat, lead her onto it, and then tell her to sit or lie down. But when I put the treat in her mouth, I would say the word beach or whatever the word is for the dog bed. These are 3 ways to entice her to go there. The next step is when she goes over here on her own. If you do this, like you have about 10 treats and do that maybe 3 times a day for 2 or 3 days, maybe 1 or 2 days. Really, probably 1 day is probably enough. Then when she goes over on her own, then you throw a treat. So, or if you don't have a treat, you just say the word beach and get up and pet her, or just say the word beach if she gets up when you come over to her. So now, at first when I'm lured to go here because I saw treats falling. Now when I stay here, it rains treats. Obviously, this is an amazing place to be. So now when the dog is being a nuisance to your guest, you could say beach or whatever the command word is to come to the dog bed, and she comes there on her own. We've created a vocabulary. And I always like to give the dog a dog bed when we take away the furniture. All right, so that's the first rule. Another rule, she's kind of free-fed a little bit. She eats all her food, but our guardians feed her twice a day, so I guess it's not really free-feeding. But she doesn't really like eating in the morning. She takes her a while to wake up, kind of like me. So what I would do is go to a structured feeding. Dogs need to eat in the order of their rank when they're in the wild. So whoever's feeding her, she needs to eat something first. So all you have to do is just get a chip, cracker, piece of celery, carrot, whatever, something crunchy preferably, and then basically just put her food in the bowl. Don't let her have it. Then you eat your carrot or whatever it is, and then you tap the bowl and invite her. And if she doesn't come over within a minute, then pick up the bowl, dump it empty, but it's important to put the empty bowl back in. If she comes over and sniffs it and stands there, she's fine. She has a couple minutes to eat, but as soon as she walks more than 7 paces away, I pick it up and dump it. After a while, and she'll probably come and lick the bowl each time afterwards. But after a while, what you're saying is when I tell you it's time to eat, either you eat or you don't get fed again until the next meal. I'm not withholding the food, I'm just putting a condition on it. It's really important because dogs eat in the order of their rank. All right, so that's another rule. When the humans are preparing food in the kitchen, the dog should not be allowed in the kitchen. You're going to use those escalating consequences, marching at her, or preferably hissing at her before she crosses the threshold. And eventually she'll learn to sit outside of the kitchen. If you have difficulty enforcing that one, let me know. I have videos I can share with you on how to do that. Also shouldn't be allowed within 7 feet of the humans when they're eating. The humans need to stop feeding her some people food, even if it's a little bit. It's not the size and the quantity, it's the repetition. Because for a dog to be within 7 feet of somebody who has a high value item is a way of challenging for that. So we just don't want her to practice breaking that rule that she knows that she should keep. Another rule I have is the door. I go to the door. A lot of people train our dogs to jump at the door because that's when we go and let them in because we want our door to be broke. Well, if you use this method, you can teach her to sit at the door. So go to the door, tell her to sit 1 time. If she doesn't sit, walk away, sit down in the nearby area and wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, go back to the door and command her again. Sit. Count in your head, 1, 2, 3. If she doesn't sit by 3, walk away and sit down in the same spot, wherever you want. Sit down this time for 2 minutes. Next time you sit down, walk away and sit down for 4 minutes and 8 minutes and so on. So you don't want to go outside, she does. If you want to go outside, you have to do the smallest thing you do as a dog and sit. And if you can't be bothered to sit, guess what? I can't be bothered to open that door. But boy, as soon as you sit, I fly that door open. After a while, she'll go sit at the door as her way of saying, I'd like to go outside, please. And when she does that, make sure you do open the door. At first, do it whatever direction she wants to do, and eventually do it in both directions. And I would also make her sit before you cross any street. If you're going anywhere else, like a pet store or something like that, she has to sit before you let her in the door, or before you even open the door to the car to get out. Let me think. Those are some examples rules. There's probably other rules that you can incorporate. So look for some of them because, like I said, those are great, easy ways to enforce rules. Is a great, easy way for the dog to see you acting like a leader. Now, she also gets very excited for, probably aperture going a little bit weird with the shadow. All right, so she also has problems getting really excited for the walk, and she's boisterous on the walk. I'm hoping we're going to send our lead dog trainer out, Julie, to help teach her to walk with a loose leash. But the energy your dog has in the house before they go for the walk is the energy they're going to carry on the walk. So what I went through is kind of a method that I like to do, which is desensitizing the dog. And also, don't forget to knock on the wall. I don't want her to hear because she's going to bark, but right now there's nobody at the door. She's relaxed or asleep. Remember to knock on the door, on the wall, like simulate the knock at the door, and then don't say a word, don't get up, don't correct her, and just she runs to the door and is like, "Are you guys not coming up?" No. And so you didn't react. Nobody came through the door. After a while, she'll be less reactive when she hears the knock at the door. Remember to use that faux command if you want to do a protect or guard or whatever the word is you want to use every time she sees the thing she's reactive to, and make that fake command. Okay, so the first step is we get up and we walk. First step is not narrating. Don't say, we're going for a walkie, walkie, walkie. just get up and walk to where the leash is. As soon as she walks in front of you, turn around and go sit back down on the couch. And it's helpful if you do this exercise without planning on actually going for a walk. So you walk towards it, and as soon as she walks in front of you, which is leadership position, you turn around and go sit back down. You don't say a word, no correction. You'll probably have to do this multiple times. Eventually she'll learn and she'll stay behind you as you walk all the way to where the leash is kept. Next step is when you get there, you tell her to sit one time. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, just like the door, you walk away. And then you start the whole process again. Let's say she does sit. If she reaches, when she sits, I reach for the leash. Let's say the leash is here. I reach, I'm not expecting to get it. I'm expecting to only go an inch or two before she starts wiggling. As soon as she starts wiggling and gets up, I pull my arm back and I tell her to sit. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk all the way back to the couch, sit down, whatever I was doing before, and I wait for her to completely calm down before I start again. But if I say sit and I pull my arm back and say sit and she sits, then I start reaching again. And at first it'll be this far, then this far, then this far, then this far, then this far. So keep on doing it. We're breaking down individual steps. Eventually we can actually touch it, jiggle it, and hopefully don't use that evil collar that you guys were using before. I don't like prime collars. And jiggle it a little bit. That jiggle is probably going to get her up. Put it back down, put your hand, and keep on resetting your hands at your side. After a while, you won't have to say sit. You'll just stop and just wait for a second, and then she'll just sit down on her own. And when she does, then immediately start the process. So as soon as she does what you want, you start what she wants. So it's a give and take, two-way street. So eventually you'll be able to reach it, touch it, pick it up, jiggle it, and reach to put it over. And at any point she gets excited, you put it back and go sit down. Eventually you'll be able to attach it to her. She's completely relaxed. Then just drop the leash, go and sit back down where you are and watch a little bit more TV. After a minute or two, take the leash off. Don't let her run around with it unsupervised because she could get in trouble. Then take the leash off. So what we're saying is when the leash goes on, first of all, you have to stay calm. Number two, it doesn't always mean we're going for a walk. So if you start leashing her up 5 times for every 1 time you take her out for a walk, after a while she's like, another leash drill. Yeah, I remember we used to actually go for a walk. Oh, we're walking. And so the energy she carries on the walk is going to be the same energy she has as you're leashing her up. So if you practice that after a while, it's not as big of a deal. Also, don't let her walk ahead of you on the walk. Again, Julie will help you with that. Let me think. What else did we go over? We went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose. If she comes up and nudges you or barks at you, which she has a tendency to do, and we pet her or react to her, we're telling her that she's the boss. And I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about demand barking, which she does a lot of. So basically, demand barking would be an indication to me that she probably is under-exercised. Now, don't immediately go and exercise her because then she's like, I'm just going to bark at you when I need exercise. But if she is barking and look at your watch, and it's 5:30, I walked her at 3 o'clock, so she probably needs some exercise. So basically, make sure you get her a right amount of exercise until you get to the point where you know that's not the case. So then she comes up and just demand barks at you. You can handle this in one of 2 ways. So you could just ride it out and ignore her and just continue watching TV. Now remember, any interaction with her is validating. Like this. That's validating. Validating. Stop it. Validating. So don't do any of those things. Just watch completely and just let her be like, man, my bark is like quiet now. It doesn't do anything to them anymore. If we yell at her, she's like, cool, now we're both barking. So instead, so you're just going to ignore, and then once she stops barking, then tell her to sit and then to lie down and then pet her for sitting or lying down, and then take her to the stairs and do the steps or take her outside and do some fetch. And figure out what that amount is that you can deplete that, a reasonable amount where she's relaxed and she's not overly tired. The other thing you can do, the other option is to leave the room. We call this a negative punishment. This is like the 4th quadrant of operant conditioning. So she comes up to you and barks once, okay. Second bark, I get up immediately, go behind and close the door behind me. So what she's saying is, I want to play with you, I want you to engage me, I want you to pet me, I want. She's basically kind of being spoiled. So if I say I want, and instead of getting what I want, it causes you to leave. Well, that's not only not what I want, that's taking away any potential for getting what I want. Petting with a purpose, what I'm going to talk about in a sec, stop talking about, will help with this. So we just need to understand that the barking is not going to elicit a response from us. Matter of fact, if you do it too much, it's going to cause us to go away. Now, one other thing is when we come home, I saw both the guardians kind of pet the dog when she was excited. Remember, anything your dog is doing when you pet is what you're reinforcing, including unbalanced states of mind. Also, we often are assigned a command word. Calm down. Calm down. The only time I hear calm down is when I'm all excited. So clearly calm down means excited. So instead, when you come home, open the outside door, open the inside door, and then close the outside door and stand out there and wait. This is kind of a similar situation to what we did with the leash. She's going to bark and be all wiggly and all happy and excited to see you. Wait. Once her energy kind of calms down, then reach for the handle. She'll start wiggling. Pull your hand back. When she calms down, reach for the handle again. Calm back. Pull it back. Now again, try not to do this in the moment. So try to, if you want to practice this, get in your car, drive around the block, come back, and then practice when you have plenty of time. When you're in a rush, you're going to be frustrated. That's not the time to do this. So again, the first step is just reaching for it and pulling back anytime she gets excited. After a while, she'll start moving away. She'll sit and calm. Then the next step is jiggle it, pull your hand back. Jiggle it again, pull your hand back until the jiggle no longer gets a response. Then you open it an inch and close it immediately. And I would put your foot up against the door to make sure she doesn't DoorDash. And so you're breaking down the whole process into small individual steps. Most of the time when dogs misbehave, it's because we haven't actually taught them how we want them to behave. We assume that they know what we want, but that's a bad assumption. So that's what we're doing for this. We're breaking down the activity into small, individual, bite-sized steps, helping the dog practice in a scenario where it's not a real-world situation. And as soon as the dog fails, or we just do the first step over and over again, not waiting for a fail, we just do the first step, and as soon as she does the right thing, we start the process again. She does the wrong thing, we stop the process. And so she comes to the realization that she's figuring this out on her own. So, when I sit quietly, you come inside. As soon as I get excited, you move away, pretty much. So the first stage is just reaching for it, and again, might be in a whole bunch of series, getting closer and closer. Next stage is touching it, then jiggling it, then opening it 1 inch, closing it 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches. By the time you're done with it, she'd be able to go over, open the door, pull it all the way up, and she just sits there quietly. The guardians are worried about her being a door dasher. This is a wonderful exercise to help her develop some self-restraint. Just because the door's open doesn't mean I'm going to be able to go out, because they just keep on closing the damn thing on me over and over again. By the time when you actually come in, she should be not quite this calm, but pretty calm. Now, when you come in, she's probably going to have a spike of excitement. Now, when you start that process, when you actually start coming in, if she gets excited, you could close the door and stop it again. Or if you want to ride it out, come inside, but when you come inside, ignore her. Now, if she's jumping up on you, that's way too high, then you should have gone outside. But you can come inside and she's boisterous and bouncy, but she's not jumping on me, that's fine. Ignore her. Don't look at her, don't talk to her, don't give her any commands. When she finally settles down, reach for her, and as soon as you start wiggling, pull your arm back and go back to making your martini or whatever it was you were doing. So there's going to be a whole lot of starting and stopping, but eventually she's going to realize, so when I wiggle, he stops trying to pet me. Therefore, maybe I should stop wiggling. And a lot of people are like, but you don't want dogs to have fun? Excited is not necessarily the same thing as happy. So it's important we recognize there is a distinction between the two of those things and help her get put her in a position to succeed. So now we've taught her how to do it in a classroom or a practice environment. Then we actually, after a while, when we come home, we go pick up the leash, she knows to stay calm, otherwise it's going to stop the process. We come to the door, she knows that she has to stay calm, otherwise that's going to stop us from entering. So there's probably a lot of other activities that she gets excited about that you guys can apply the same thing to. So the idea is again, it's operant conditioning. I'm not yelling at you, not punishing you, just as soon as you do the wrong thing, and I stop. Okay, so getting back to petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose, if she comes up and nudges you, she's telling you what to do. Leaders tell, followers ask. So when she tells you, show her that you're not the follower, give her a counter order instead. If she does it within 3 seconds, pet her under her chin and say sit. Only ask for a sit or down, don't ask for a shake. If she doesn't do it within 3 seconds, go on about your day. Show her that the world does not revolve around her. I wanted to pet you, but you can't be bothered to sit. I can't be bothered to pet you. After a while, she'll start coming and sitting in front of you to prepay for that attention. When she does, make sure you pet her on her chin at least once and say sit, then pet her as long or as little as you want. Now remember to use the watchword paycheck. If you suspect someone's petting without a purpose, even if you did it right and someone says paycheck to you, you have to stop petting, tell her to sit, pet her on her chin, and tell the other person, I actually did it the right way, you just missed it. Legs going to sleep. Back, I got that too. So after a while, she'll start prepaying for that attention. Make sure you recognize that. Use paycheck if someone's doing it without, like I said, without permission or without asking her to earn it. And then if you get in a habit of doing this, every time you pet your dog, 3 important things happen. First of all, it increases dog respect for you as an authority figure because I'm no longer telling you, I'm asking. Number 2, it boosts the dog's own confidence because instead of getting attention for free, I'm earning this affection. Number 3, it helps her practice sitting. Even though it's easy to sit, having her sit when there's a dog nearby is harder, or the vacuum cleaner's out is harder. The more we have her practice this, the easier that will be. We also talked about passive training, which is waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior that you want. So every time that she comes to you, pet her and say, come. When you didn't ask her, you don't show her you have a treat, she just did it on her own. Every time she sits, pet her and say sit. Every time you lay down, pet her and say down. Every time she takes a bite of food, say sushi, or whatever the word is you want to use. Come up with the words and name all the individual toys. And if she stretches, pet her and say stretch. The more things you can label, the easier it is for her to understand. Remember to make that list of vocabulary words and say vocabulary if somebody's using a different version of the word. Come versus here, or come here versus here. If we just use one word, it's just a lot easier for her. Now, the clicker, she had some aversion to the clicker. So priming the clicker, you're going to pull out 10 treats, throw one on the ground, and then you might have to muffle it or hold it behind your back. And as soon as she licks it up, you click it, and then throw another one down, click, and keep doing that. You do that, I usually do about 10 treats, 3 or 4 times a day. I'm guessing by the second day, she shouldn't have any of the aversion. Oh, sorry, I'm breaking the wall. But she shouldn't have any aversion to that. And then the click becomes a representation of something positive. That's classical conditioning. We need that because I'm going to come back and she's reacted to the vacuum cleaner. We just weren't able to achieve it in this session. I was rushing and I don't think I was going to give a very good video. So we'll set up a 1-hour follow-up session. We'll work on the vacuum cleaner. The same technique will work with the leaf blower as well as the lawnmower. I might work on vacuum cleaner, lawnmower, because the leaf blower would be the easier of those 3. But we have to be able to click and get her to look at it. So what I want you to do is get to the point where you can, she's not reacting to that. Then what I want you to do is have the vacuum cleaner out, but way on the other side of the room, so she's not reactive to it. And all I want you to do is just kind of hang out, have about 10, 15 treats, and she's going to kind of look, and if the vacuum cleaner's right here, whenever she click, as soon as she looks at it, then give her the treat, and you can assign a word like vacuum cleaner or machine or whatever you want if you want to. You don't have to. So after a while, she'll say, okay, click, another treat. And after a while, she starts looking at the object that she was formerly barking at, because looking at the vacuum cleaner gets me a treat. And it's not moving, it's not on, and I'm far enough away to not perceive it to be a threat. And when you get to that point, and take note of whatever distance you are, and let's say we're 25 feet, then put the vacuum cleaner away, and go and make sure after each activity that you play or do something that she enjoys doing, belly rub or whatever for a minute. And then do it a little bit later on that day. This time, if she does pretty well, then you can try moving it one step closer, or moving her one step closer to the vacuum cleaner. And keep repeating this process until the vacuum cleaner can be right here, and she's comfortable and she's not reacting to it. At that point, you can also do another technique you can do is having her practice approaching it. Now, when she gets close to it, she's just biting it. Back up a couple more steps and practice. And again, we don't want to practice reacting to it. Eventually, if you think it's going well, what you can try doing is dropping a treat between her and the vacuum cleaner. She comes and gets it and turns and walks away. So now we're having a practice approaching the vacuum cleaner is a good thing. No, it doesn't go on, it doesn't move, it doesn't smell, but just approaching it. And maybe if the couch is where you are and the vacuum cleaner's here, you drop the treat here, halfway distance, she won't come and get it. Throw it halfway distance between the treat and where you are. Even if it only takes one step towards the vacuum cleaner, turns and walks away, that's a success. Eventually you'll get 2 steps, 3 steps, and so on. And eventually she's walking close enough, you might be able to put treats on the vacuum cleaner and get her to eat it. The treats, not the vacuum cleaner. If she's reacting to the vacuum cleaner, then back up and previous step. Anytime you're doing counter conditioning or any of these techniques, the dog cannot react. If she's reacting, you push too far too fast, which is a common mistake, but you kind of undid the work that you did. So it's better to go slow and methodical and be it boring and have good success than push it too far and have her reacting, because once she's reacting, he's kind of invalidated everything you did. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we went over that you want me to go over?
I think that's everything. That's everything I can remember.
Okay.
So.
Kayia? Oh, another thing, always try to get her to come to you. Come. The more you go to her to put the leash on or to go pet her or do those things, again, you're following and catering to her. And if she does get out, remember that emergency recall. Use a very high-pitched, like teenage girl sounding voice or preteen girl, and just say, Kayia! When she looks at you, fall down or run away from her. If you chase her, you might chase her into traffic. And so, but the passive training we talked about, every time she comes to you, pet her and you say, come. Well, now every time I come to the human, I get a reward. I'm more inclined to want to do that. That's a great job of it doing it right there. Come up with a watchword for that. I say testify, but you can say any words you want. So the watchwords that I use is paycheck is I suspect you're petting without a purpose. Testify means you're missing an opportunity right there. Testify, pet further down. And try to pet under the chin wherever possible. Vocabulary means using the wrong vocabulary word. Repeat or rerun means you're repeating the command word. And try to always say it the same way. Don't say come and come. Say the same consistently, vocal delivery.
Did we talk about focus?
The focus exercise. That's the video above. So for that one, make sure you're holding that treat here. Don't fidget. Just wait for her to look at you and make sure you're raising it straight to your nose and straight to her mouth. Now, if you want to watch the video, you can watch me doing it. I think it was profile, so if you have questions about it, let me know. But there are a bunch of videos on my website of other people doing it as well. It's not that hard. One of the guardians had a bit of a challenge because it's just been a long session. I threw a lot at her. But it's pretty easy. So practice and follow the steps. I'm not going to outline it because it's already going to be in the video above. But practice that. By the time, within 2 weeks, you should be able to say focus on a walk and have her look up at you. And then anytime that you think that she's going to be reactive, you see a dog down the street, or you're going to walk by that black German Shepherd's house, well, maybe you walk on the other side of the street, and when you get close, you say focus, tell her sit and focus. And then take another step, sit and focus, until you step-by-step walk all the way past the house, preferably without the dog reacting. But eventually, when it gets to the point where you say focus, and the dog's house is here, and she's looking up at you, and you're walking, now you're on the other side of the street. Then start doing it just right inside the curb, then right in the street, then maybe in the middle of the street if no traffic's going. Eventually, you can do it on her sidewalk. But again, breaking it down to smaller steps, easier steps, helping her practice over and over, and only then do we go to the more challenging, more difficult setting, and gradually work to the point where we can walk right past that dog house. We don't even have to say focus because she's conditioned to look up at you as she walks past. Then you would give her the treat after she passes the house without any barking. That's kind of a version of counter conditioning. All right, let's see if we can get her up. Also, get yourself some of those bully sticks, the ones I get from the green spot. Use that card and get a bag of those. That way, if you have a guest come over, exercise her before the guest comes over. And then once the guest comes in, you can have the guest give her a bully stick. And she's like, I like it when guests come over. I know she does now. But it just gives her something to be preoccupied. So instead of jumping up at the guest, she's going to lay on the floor and chew on her bully stick. All right, well, this is Kayia, and this is Kayia's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.